Hi, I'm Sarah Wilder, and this is part 16 of Surviving the Man I Married. In part 15, you heard the rest of the July 2020 reading with Peter, and in this episode, you'll hear after the reading stuff, and I'll fill you in on the second half of 2020. So, Spirit had challenged me to quit wearing wigs and makeup performatively, like as if I'm in character, and my mom had done the same thing several readings ago. So I did do that challenge for 3 weeks, no wigs, no makeup. And I just began shaving my head to a number one clipper guard length and occasionally wearing fabulous eye makeup, sometimes for no reason at all. I sold the wigs, except for my favorite Bianca. And I put a video of Bianca on my stories on TikTok. You might have seen her. Um, and I will put a picture of me with just the eye makeup on TikTok as well when I post this episode. Fast forward 2 years, and the very last photo of myself the day before I left gym was taken when I was seated on my porch, my favorite place to hang out, in my favorite dress with an IV in my arm, getting a plasma treatment, lit joint in hand, and fabulous eye makeup. Also, mean words don't land. I did better with the liar's trash talk, even buying myself something nice every time he talked shit to me. And my mom called that retail therapy, and I'm now a believer. So then August 2020 rolled around, and it was our 37th wedding anniversary. However, there was nothing in my calendar along the lines of dinner or going for a drive or anything like that. Instead, it said 10 a.m., Hyundai dealer, back door broken. And I thought, girl, my back's broken too. I was also able to make several visits to an intuitive energy healer for Reiki and also a therapeutic masseuse for my chronic pain before the lockdown during the pandemic put me back indoors. But, I did see a lot of improvement for just those few visits. I'd paid for like a five visit set, and I got 3 of those visits done. The other 2 I never went back for. So then in the fall, we went camping. We took our trailer out twice. That's my favorite time of year, and that's really when I'm driven to get out into nature. I just absolutely feel called to be outdoors in the fall. In September, we went to Lava Hot Springs, Idaho. I know that's weird, but that's how they pronounce it, as lava. It's a really famous hot springs. And then in October, we went somewhere closer to home, just up the road in American Fork Canyon, right above Tibble Fork Reservoir. It's a place called Granite Flats Campground, and it's really beautiful. It's a nice place. Right before that camping trip, though, we had the truck and the trailer parked out front. We lived on a cul-de-sac where the end of our street was round, and we had the trailer and truck getting cleaned and everything loaded for this trip. I came out of the townhome and I was walking along the pickup truck on the passenger side, and the truck had a shell, a matching shell and windows in it. And I was looking, just glancing through the windows of the shell, and I noticed right on the other side was Jim. He was standing there with the back of the truck was open. He was standing at the tailgate, just intently focusing on something on his phone. And I noticed that the truck bed was full of flattened furniture boxes, and right on top, next to Jim on the tailgate, was a yellow packing slip. And the markings on the boxes, I could tell, were furniture model numbers. And right away, I was suspicious because I recognized that packing slip as being from our favorite furniture store, which was R.C. Willey, who we've done a ton of business with. But we had not bought anything from them that needed to be picked up in years. Everything was always delivered. As soon as Jim saw me, the same way I saw him looking through the diagonally across the shell windows, he just snatched the packing slip up and shoved it into his pants pocket. And when I asked him about the boxes, he said they were from work. And I asked, well, why weren't they in the warehouse? They have 2 dumpsters there. And he replied that somebody needed them and they had no way to get them home, so he was going to drop them off. No, sir. More like he delivered furniture to his girlfriend's house after work that same day and still had the boxes. Listen, I knew those boxes were not from where he worked at the online knife retailer warehouse. He was in receiving an inventory, and whenever I had visited Jim at work, which was, a few times, I'd seen the shipments stacked up in his work area, and those boxes are small to medium, and they're very sturdily built. I mean, a box full of knives is heavy, and so those boxes were never very big. These ones in his truck were thin, and they were large, and they were built for upholstered things. I never asked him about the packing slip, but after he was asleep, I searched his pants, his clothes, all the garbage cans. I don't know where it went, but I never did find it. But I knew some bitch somewhere got a couple of new recliners. Thankfully, in October, legal weed, I got my card, my medical cannabis card. And for someone who spent the better part of her adult life as a faithful and very active Mormon, man, I took the state-sanctioned toking like a fish to water. I leaned in. And you know what? I'm not validating the absurd belief that marijuana is a gateway drug that made a dope fiend out of me. It doesn't make a dope fiend out of anybody. It's not a gateway to anything other than a good night's sleep. Because I believe firmly that we build and pass through gateways of our own construction. And you've heard me build a few pretty crappy ones that pass right on through them. And I'm not done. You'll hear more. But I'm saying how much I love the quality of Utah's products and how I enthusiastically supported the industry. And their weed is way better than Illinois weed. I'm just telling you. It's grim here in Illinois. The next category is vice control. By November 2020, because I'd noticed I was getting sick more easily, I made adjustments to a couple of my vices. I gave up smoking cigarettes cold turkey. It was just a temporarily fun and expensive habit I picked up a year earlier when I spent a week at the mental hospital. And at the height of that habit, I smoked maybe half a pack a day, which for those who don't smoke, that's about 10 cigarettes a day. I also cut back on drinking, which really had only been a few beers a week to begin with, but I got non-alcoholic Klaus-Taller beer. I used to buy it once in a while, and I just loved it. It was also kind of good when I had an upset stomach. It was delicious. I didn't mind at all that I had no alcohol. However, I kept the margaritas on deck for whenever I had Mexican food. I loved a Grand Cadillac margarita. The next thing is called the Tungsten Promise, and it's a bit embarrassing. This is a humiliating gateway that I built and walked through, and it's ridiculous. It flies in the face of everything Spirit had been telling me, and I'm sorry if you feel very frustrated with me after hearing this. I angered myself writing this part of the episode. In December 2020 was the 1-year anniversary of our contractual remarriage, and it was the end of a probationary period I had agreed to give Jim, after which I promised I'd decide about the status of our arrangement. So in part 14, you heard some of the conditions I'd laid out beforehand, and I was using that year to see if Jim could comply, or did I need to move out and rent my rooms. So despite hearing an abundance of proof from Spirit that the man was a hopeless deviant, unable to keep any promises, just even the basic ones, as recently as the reading with Peter a few months earlier in July, I once more leaned in to fear, denial, and false hope when making a major decision. That was my posse in my shit decisions. I doubled down on our charade and even put a $30 tungsten wedding band from Amazon on my left hand, and I put one on Jim's. Both of us pledging to be monogamous, me to Jim, and as anyone and everyone would expect, Jim to Jim. Tungsten is both nearly indestructible and cheap, they say, but at that point, so was I. I took control of all the wrong things in all the wrong ways, despite Spirit's many warnings that staying with him is not a form of control. It's capitulating to fear and denial. Why didn't I at least continue the platonic arrangement? Why didn't I just leave? If I was going to make a change after that 1-year mark, why go backwards? I still don't really know the answer to this because I'm a therapy dropout, a flunky. If anyone knows, please tell me. P.S. I also waited a year to tell my kids that Jim and I remarried, not until after I started wearing that ugly ring. This feels like a good place to stop. That's enough humiliation for one episode. And thank you for sticking with me. In episode 17, I'll catch you up on the first half of 2021. And you know what? It's a doozy. That was one hell of a year. If you want to know more, please remember to like, follow, and share to take my story one step closer to publication. And ladies, I invite you to step out of the darkness and into your power.